So today we're going to talk about one of the two main nuclear reactions, nuclear fusion, where nuclei are actually combined into a bigger nuclei. So fusion requires extreme temperatures and energy and pressures in order to force two light nuclei close enough to overcome electrostatic repulsion. Remember that in your nucleus of every atom, you have mostly protons and neutrons, and protons repel each other. So you have to overcome that electrostatic repulsion to get those two nuclei to bind. When these nuclei fuse, when you overcome that electrostatic repulsion, they combine into a heavier nucleus, and this releases energy from the mass defect. Okay, so any mass that's lost, once this is combined, is converted directly into energy. The sun fuses hydrogen nuclei into helium, releasing the energy that powers all life on Earth, at least that which we've measured so far. Now, between the two nuclear reactions, your fusion releases more energy per unit mass than fission does. And so this is potentially a cleaner resource of energy, and it's more efficient. And more importantly, it also doesn't give us radioactive waste. So this is why a lot of countries like Iran and the like are seeking nuclear energy as an alternative potential energy source. So one of the main, you could say, chain reactions that does occur in a nuclear fusion reaction is the proton-to-proton chain. So the proton-proton chain is a series of nuclear fusion reactions that occur inside the sun and other massive stars. So our sun is really just one giant ball of a series of proton-to-proton chain nuclear fusion reactions. So what this does essentially is that it converts hydrogen into helium and releases enormous amounts of energy in this process. And it's been going on for a really long time, right? Roughly about 4.6 billion years, and will continue to go on for billions more until the sun burns mostly iron and then collapses inside itself because it cannot sustain its own weight. So the proton-to-proton chain reaction series has a lot of steps where these protons collide and they fuse together and build those heavier nuclei. And each step releases energy in the form of heat. Now in this video, we're going to mostly or zero in on 3 of those steps. So in the first step here, you have 2 protons inside the sun's core that collide with enough energy and acceleration to overcome that electrostatic repulsion. When they fuse together, one proton converts into a neutron, and in the process, and this is kind of what this is showing over here, in the process they release a positron and a neutrino. Now remember, a positron is an antiparticle, right? It's the sort of the mirror image of the electron, whereby it has the same hypothetical or theoretical mass of an electron, but instead of a negative charge, it has a positive charge. And a neutrino is one of those ghost-like particles that we still don't really know its mass, but we know that it carries energy from the reaction, and they escape the suns all the time. The result of this collision and fusion of the 2 protons result in what we call a deuteron. And this is a specific type of nucleus that contains 1 proton and 1 neutron bound together, right, as one of the protons converted into a neutron. This step is extremely rare because protons generally repel each other, and it is rare that you can overcome that electrostatic repulsion. It requires a lot of force. Now, the positron that is released as a result of the proton converting into a neutron will quickly collide with any electrons that are nearby, and that's because just like all antimatter and matter reactions, it will annihilate each other, and all that mass will convert directly into energy according to E equals mc squared, which is Einstein's equation. Now, the second step is where the deuteron captures another proton. Okay, so now I got this active nucleus inside the sun's core, and it captures another proton. And these two particles, the nucleus and the proton, will fuse together to form helium-3, which contains 2 protons and 1 neutron. This fusion releases high energy or highly frequent gamma rays, and this is a high energy photon that carries away a lot of energy. Now the last step is where the 2 helium-3 nuclei collide. In this final step, you got your 2 helium-3 nuclei that were produced from the previous cycles. They collide together and make an even bigger atom. When they combine, you have helium-4, right, which is otherwise known as our alpha particle. And this contains 2 protons and 2 neutrons. Now, it isn't the alpha particle, but it is atomically identical to that alpha particle. Now, this newly formed helium atom releases 2 protons, and then these 2 protons can once again start this whole process, and this is kind of like that chain reaction that we saw with the fission nuclear reaction as well. And this happens repeatedly in the sun's core. Now, your helium-4 nucleus, which is the one that we see in our periodic table, is very stable and tightly bound, which means that a large amount of mass has been converted into energy. This is why the photon-photon chain is so efficient at releasing energy from hydrogen fuel, because your helium, being one of the noble gases, being so tightly bound and stable, is very unlikely going to emit radioactive particles or nuclear matter. So here's a summary in both a tabulated form and in a diagram. So for the first step here, which happens over here, you have your 2 hydrogen atoms that fuse together, and that makes deuterium over here, and that releases 0.42 mega electron volts. Then over here you have another hydrogen atom that fuses with the deuterium atom to make helium-3, and that releases much more energy, 5.49 mega electron volts. And then again, all the energy associated with each process. We're finally adding up all of these energies together for your final nuclear fusion reaction. You get about 26.71 mega electron volts, and that's how much energy in total is released just to make our helium-4 stable particle over here. And at each stage here, you could see the types of waves or energies that are getting released, or in some cases, like we mentioned over here, that your final step releases 2 protons, and these ones can sort of repeat the cycle. So I'm just going to put repeat and repeat over here. So for a calculation question like this, where you want to know how many helium nuclei does a star with a power of 1.6 times 10 to the 25 watts produced every second. So remember that a watt is a joule per second. So what that means is that this SUD has 1.6 times 10 to the 25 joules per second of power. So what we know from this table over here is that 1 helium atom produces 26.71 mega electron volts. So the conversion factor is that 1 mega electron volt is equal to 1.602 times 10 to the negative 13 joules of energy. So if we want to convert our mega electron volts to joules, well, we can go 26.71 mega electron volts, and that's per helium atom, multiplied by 1.602 times 10 to the negative 13 joules for every 1 mega electron volt. And when we plug that in, we end up getting about 4.27941 times 10 to the negative 12 joules. So every single helium atom from your nuclear fusion reaction releases this much energy. So how many helium nuclei does this star with that kind of power produce? Well, what we have to do is we could go for the number of atoms. It's going to be 1.6 times 10 to the 25 watts, and that's going to be, that's the number of joules, or watts. You could say joules per second. It's the same thing. And then we're going to divide by 4.2794 times 10 to the negative 12 joules. And this ends up being about 3.73 times 10 to the 36 atoms per second. So that is a heck of a lot.